So sometimes you can be able, let me just take this opportunity to welcome you to our today's session. Today we are covering market structures. I chose the topic because it is something that is familiar to us, and it will be bring a lot of understanding to us regarding to what entails in the market. In simple terms, someone can be able to tell me that Mwalimu, a market is an area where goods and services are normally traded, and nobody is going to be penalizing you for that. But in economics, we can be able to understand that, it refers to how different industries are classified. That is why we are calling them structures. So there is a classification of different industries and how they are normally differentiated based on their degree and nature of competition for goods and services. We need just to be able to understand what the market structure entails and what does it mean in a simple terms. And that is why I'm saying that a market structure just refers on how the different industries are classified, are differentiated based on their degree and nature of competition for the goods and services. And it is normally based on the characteristic that normally influence the behavior and the outcome of the companies working in a specific market. We normally discuss about our kinds of employment, and sometimes someone can be able to tell you that I don't have a good understanding of a certain or specific specific systems in an organization because I'm dealing with manufacturing industries, I'm dealing with hospitality, I'm dealing with agriculture, and so on and so forth. And that is why we have to be looking on how does the market basically normally classified, not only on the nature of operations, but how do they normally how do these companies be classified based on how they are dominating the markets. And that is why we normally find we have four major classifications of the markets. And that is why here we are talking about classifying the markets into perfect and imperfect. Breaking down into that, I can just be able to say that the market basically, if we want to understand it in a broader way, is normally classified into four. I can just be able to put it in that manner. I hope I'm audible enough. So in that regard, I can be able to classify these markets into four. We can discuss about the perfect competition markets. We can discuss about monopolistic competitions. We normally have oligopoly, and then we have monopoly. Some of the terms in which I'm trying to talk about are the words which we can be able to hear every day, be discussed whether by the political class or be defined by the economists, among others. Let me just look on I don't know whether you can be able to see. Can you be able to see my board? Is my board visible?
Yes.
Very good. So I just want to define or be able to illustrate about how the markets are normally classified. And this will be looking like this. So we are discussing about the markets structures. And we just want to know how do we normally group these markets, right? And we'll be able to find, based on the notes in which we have provided, that the market is normally classified into four in this manner. It is just a simpler way of being able to see how our market normally looks like. So we normally have perfect competition. We normally have the perfect competition. Secondly, we normally have monopolistic. We normally have monopolistic competition. Number three, you can talk about oligopoly. Then the last one, you can be able to define your market as monopoly. Right? Your markets might be looking in that manner, right? That is the classifications of the markets. Is it okay now? There might be some challenges here. Can you be able to see now?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Now, when you look on these classifications of the markets, it is very important to be able to understand these concepts in a simpler way. So in this case, if your markets are normally classified to 4, you normally look on the sum of these factors that normally determines the market structures, right? So you can just be able to say factors which normally determines the market structures. Right? The factors which normally determines the market structures. One, I can discuss about the number of buyers and sellers. Right? Number two, we can discuss about ability to negotiate. Number three, you can also be able to discuss about degree. We can discuss about degree of concentration. What is the degree of the concentration? Then also we can look on the degree of differentiations of products. Degree of differentiation of the degree on how we normally differentiate our products. I just hope that my network stabilizes. So the degree which normally discusses about the issues of the differentiations of the products, and the ease, we can discuss about the last one being ease or difficulty. Right? Ease or difficulty of entering and exiting the market. These are the things in which we just want to see them working. Let me just see whether I can be able to change my network to a new one. Let me see. A minute, please. Can we continue? Hello, can we continue? We have said that the factors which normally determine the market structures, one might be the number of the buyers and sellers, the ability to negotiate, right? With the degree of the concentration, we have the degree of differentiation of products, is or difficulty of entering and exiting the markets. I remember when we were looking on or you might be having some knowledge regarding to the product life cycle. We could be able to determine that one of the key disadvantage or one of the key difficulties of entering a specific market is the product competition, because sometimes you normally find that being a new entrant, being a new entrant in the market, you might be challenged based on the price in which you are charging on a certain commodities. So there are some of the criteria in which are basically used to enter in the market, I hope I'm audible enough. Am I okay? I want people to talk. I don't know whether they are there.
You're okay.
Thank you. Okay. So I just want to start by looking on the perfect markets, and that is based on analyzing the perfect competition markets. And we are saying that the perfect market is a market with many buyers and sellers where nobody can determine the price of goods and services. And in this kind of the market is whereby we look on the determination of the prices. Sometimes we normally discuss about the price ceilings, whereby the government basically they normally determines or they control the price of the commodities to be in a position to cover the consumers, and also sometimes they can be able to cover the suppliers. So in that characteristics, that is where we are saying the perfect market is whereby I'm entering a certain market and there is no anyone who is controlling that market. And that is why we are saying one of the key characteristics of an organization is operating under the perfect markets. Number one is the large number of buyers and sellers, where each individual farm supplies part of total quantity supplied. Buyers are many so that no monopolistic powers can affect the working of the markets. And we are saying that under this condition, no individual farm or buyer can affect the markets. Number two, and the second characteristics, we discuss about the free entry and free exits. And there are no barriers to entry or exit to this kind of market. And entry and exit from the industry may take time, but farms have the freedom of movement in and out of the industry. And when you look on these kind of characteristics, you'll be able to look on specific items in which we are going to be buying the market, and realize that if I want to buy a kitunguu from Nairobi, the person who is selling that kitunguu in Mutindwa is different from that. The same I can be able to get from Muthurwa, the same I can be able to get it from Kangemi, and also if I am approaching Githurai market, it will be different kind of prices and now they are measuring the quantities. Why? Because any supplier will be able to enter to the market and be able to determine the price of the commodities. Number three, we are saying that the product homogeneity, and we are saying the industry is defined as group of farms producing homogeneous products, and that is the technical characteristics as well as the service associated with the products sold are identical. And there is no, that is why we are saying there is no why is which buyer can differentiate among the products of different farms. And that is why I was able to use like agricultural products. When you go to the market, you will not be able to know that Daniel was able to produce these kind of potatoes or tomatoes. Catherine was able to produce this kind of avocado, among other products. You just go to the market, you just be able to buy the product and you go home. And that is why we are saying there, under the perfect competition, farms are price takers. And we are saying, meaning the demand curve on an individual farm will be perfectly elastic, showing that the farm can sell any quantity of the output at a given or prevailing market prices. So the concept of price taking is illustrated here. And when you look at it, sometimes you normally need to look on the industry and the farm there, whereby the prices are normally illustrated on the y-axis, and we look on the quantity demanded on the x-axis. And at equilibrium is a point where we normally discuss about the demand and the supply being equal, or we can be able to look at it. And we know that if this curve of if the demand curve, and we are going to be analyzing these, if the demand curve shifts upward, right, it means that the demand of the products has increased. But if, for example, it tends to go downwards here, it means that the demand of the product decreases. Those are the things that we shall be able to check on other aspects of the demand and supply analysis. Now, when you look on the aspect of the supply, when you look on the supply, if the supply increases, and that is where we just need to be able to understand that the concept of the price taking is because when the demand increases, it means the price of the commodities, right? When the demand increases, what is going to be happening to the prices? The price of the product just goes up. But when there is an increment of the supply of the commodities in the market, it means it tells that the price of the commodities will be able to decrease. But that being the case, we shall be able to check on that later on. The other characteristics of these perfect competitions, we look on the profit maximization, and we say that the goal of the firm is profit maximization, both in the short run and in the long run. No other goal is pursued. And basically, when you look on the aspects, unless the organizations are going to be giving us this challenge, whereby we have to be checking on the aspects of this profit maximization, basically normally depends on what kind of organizations are we operating in, because we might be discussing the profit maximization, kumbe we are dealing with the NGOs. But basically, one of the key motives and objectives of most of the organization is there to maximize the profits and minimizing the cost. And that is the thing that we are looking on with our governments, with the past governments. We look on the policies which you normally develop in the companies which we are operating in as the key decision makers. Now, in that aspect, we have to understand that the profit maximization is where we expect the organization to realize a certain markup. And also because the markup is to determine the selling price of the commodities, but also we have to be checking on how do the organization has to minimize the cost. And in that aspect is where you normally realize that if the organization has already employed, they normally want to retrench so that they can be able to minimize. It means that that organization does not generate the profit, but it needs to it just need to report a certain margin within a specific period of time. That is what we discuss about the profit maximization. But we shall be able to, and I'll be able to give you a broader explanation regarding rate as we move on and on. Then the other one is because I normally teach 5 characteristics. The other one you can just be able to take as you can take as bonuses. So the last one I can discuss is the no government regulations, and there is no government intervention in the operation of this market. So one of the key characteristics of the perfect market is whereby you find that the government does not need to interfere with the price determination. The government does not have to raise different policies regarding to certain markets and so on and so forth. That is why we are discussing about the aspects of the perfect market. Now, when you look on the aspect of the revenue position of a perfectly competitive firms or the organizations, we are saying that in perfect competitions, since each unit of units sold at the same price, both on the average and the marginal revenue are constant. And someone is want to greet me. Let me see. Okay. Someone is calling Zio. I don't know. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that when you look on this aspect of the marginal revenue and so on and so forth, I think something will be, let me just look on the aspects of the marginal analysis, because that is the thing that you just need to understand much better if you want to be in a position to understand the computations. In economics, it is very important to remember that majority of us were able to pass through the concept of marginal analysis. And in this concept of the marginal analysis is whereby we are going to be discussing about how do we normally generate our revenues, how do we normally determine our total costs, how do the organizations have to report our profits, among other aspects. And I will be able to illustrate this because before I told you how that question is being done, or even if you know how the question is being done, it is very important to understand the concept of marginal analysis. You understand the concept of the marginal analysis. So let me just illustrate here on the board. Right, let me just illustrate this here. This is what you have to do. Right, let me just check. Okay, let me see what is happening here. 1 minute, 1 minute. Thank you. I just want to teach you about the marginal analysis. the marginal analysis. This is a concept which you just need to understand much if you want to understand more about the aspects of economics, computations. And I can be able to say, this is analysis. This is an analysis of revenue function, of the revenue function. This analysis of the revenue function. We discuss about the cost function, revenue function, we have the cost functions, and profit functions. And profit functions. Right? And profit functions. In order to determine the optimal quantity, to produce, and sell. The optimal quantity to produce and sell. So in this case, it means in the marginal analysis, you have to be determining the key elements. And number one, we have discussed about determining our total revenue. And it can be able to, you can denote it as TR, and we can be able to say, to get our total revenue, we can just be able to take our price and multiply by our quantity. Here we are discussing about P times Q, right? Number two, the examiner might be challenging, right? Might be challenging you in an exam. And in this case, he might be asking you to calculate the average revenue. The examiner might be asking you to calculate the average revenue, AR here. And you can be able to say, to calculate our average revenue, is just by taking our total revenue, you divide by your quantity. So in simpler terms here, it means I just need to take our TR divided by our quantity. Divided by our quantity there. That is how we normally calculate the average revenues. Number three, we can be able to discuss about the total cost functions. And in this case, I can be able to discuss about the TC. So I can say, to get the total costs in any business which we want to, we just need to be able to take the fixed costs plus the variable costs. So in this case, I'm just discussing about the fixed plus variable costs. So what is our B, right? We talk about the variable cost per unit. It is the variable costs per unit. Then what is our Q? These are the number of units produced. How much are we producing? Then we go to number 4 here. We discuss about the average revenue, average cost, sorry. It should be the average cost. And to be able to get our average costs, we normally say, can I be able to take my total costs? We divide by quantity. So in this case, it means it is your TC you divide by quantity there. Is our TC you divide by the quantity. But in most aspects here, you just also need to analyze the simple concepts, which we are calling them number 5 of our analysis. And in our number 5, we can be able to say that there is analysis which we normally incorporate differentiations and integrations here. This basically discuss much more about the calculus, but I'll be able to teach you in a simpler way, because sometimes you might find an examiner giving you the total revenue or the total cost, and he wants you to get the marginal revenues or the marginal costs, right? In simpler terms, we normally say from your total revenue to your marginal revenues, you just need to do something called differentiation, right? And then from here, coming back to the total revenues, you can do something called integration, right? Then when you discuss about the integration, the formulas for integration, because when we look on it, and basically based on the analysis which you normally get them from the statistics which you have already passed through, it is very important to understand when you are differentiating, right? You are reducing the powers of a certain equations. And in this case, it means you normally need to pull down the power. So in this case, the formula to get for differentiation, it will be, for example, let me talk about the change in the total revenue, right? Let me talk about the change in profits over the change in, for example, we are using the quantity as Q. Sometimes it might be Q, it might be X. There is no any problem, but I will be able to show under illustrations as provided. In this case, you can say we normally take n, ax, n minus 1. This is differentiating formula, which we can be able to use. But in simpler terms here, I can give you an illustration. Right? And I be able to give an illustration and I say yes. Basically to look on how do we normally differentiate the equations, right? Let me just look at it. So how do you normally differentiate an equations? For example, the examiner has provided you with this equation. For example, 4x cubed plus 4x squared plus 4x. And then this examiner wants you to differentiate. To apply the formula which I have given you up here, it means I just need to pull this power down here, right? Then I reduce it. What do I mean? It means I take 3 times 4x, 3 minus 1. It means already you pull down the power. And that is what the thing which I'm doing now, right? Plus 2 times 4. Then you reduce the power, which is x, 2 minus 1. Then plus, when you pull down, because this, we assume it, it is not even assumption, it is the truth. It is raised to power 1. It means once you pull down here, it will just remain as 4. So it will be 4x1 minus 1. So already existing equation, which is already differentiated, it will be looking like what? 12x squared plus 8x plus 4. This is an already differentiated equation. This is an already differentiated equation. I am just showing you how it is normally done. It will be assisting us covering most of our syllabus, because this is what most of the question regarding to economics, or the macro and the intermediate talks about. Now, when you look on the integration, it means an already existing equation which is already differentiated. It is reversing it, right? It is reversing back an equation which has already been integrated, differentiated, sorry. So what is the formula for this? The formula for this, it means you're going to be taking ax, n plus 1, then you divide by n plus 1, right? N plus 1. And because already you can see, we have already differentiated a certain equation here. We can try whether we can be able to get our initial equation. Can we be able to see whether we can be able to get it? And let's check whether we can be able to get that. Let me see, right? Whether we can be able to reverse an equation which has already been differentiated. So in this case, I'm just saying that because I just want to apply this formula, you can see you are adding your new powers. And let me look on this equation, which is 12x, which is raised to 2 plus 1. Then you divide by the new power, which is 3. Where is 3 coming from? N plus 1, which is 2 plus 1. You divide by 3, right? Then you go to the next one, plus 8, right? X. 1 plus 1, you divide by 2. Because you can see this x is raised to power 1, right? Plus now we are discussing about 4, and you know very well here that the x which is here has already been raised to power 0. So if you can take x, 0 plus 1, you can see how it looks like. So in this case here we have 4x cubed plus 4x squared
plus 4x. And that was our initial equation. So when you see three things in an exam, right, just understand very well that once you differentiate an equation, right, you are getting a new equation, but you can integrate it and get the initial equation which was provided. That is what the differentiated integrations normally works out, because I don't want to talk about it much more. Now, the other aspect that I just want you to realize here, number 4, or number, I don't know which number we are in, number 6, we can discuss about the profit determination. How do you normally get the profits? And under the management accounts or any type of accounts which you are looking at, we normally discuss about taking the contribution margins times fixed costs. The contribution margin times fixed cost. How do you normally determine how do you normally get our contribution margins? You normally take in the selling price minus the variable costs. We multiply by the quantity which you want to sell minus the fixed cost. Allow me just to show you here. This is what we are calling the contribution margin. The contribution margin. These are the number of units sold. The number of units sold. And then this is your total fixed cost. We shall be able to look on the certain illustrations regarding to this. I was just trying to shift my attention so that I can be able to elaborate what I was able to see on our notes. So through this analysis, then we can be able to look on the notes which we are going through and see, can we be able to understand? Can we be able to understand what is being provided here? I know you have this note, so let me just share and read the equation first. And I can see the examiner has already provided you with the quantity demanded. The examiner has also provided you with the examiner has given you the prices, quantity demanded, and then we have the total demand. And then this examiner is asking you, can you be able to give me the marginal revenue, right? How am I going to be getting the marginal revenues? And in simpler terms, you can bear me witness that if you take the total demanded, you divide by the prices, you'll be able to get the quantity demand. I can see that that is for sure. Then, if you can be able to understand very well based on the equations which I was able to give you, on the formulas which I was able to give you, if you take the price and the quantity, you'll be able to get the total revenue, which is your total demand, right? Then, if I want to get the marginal revenues, right? If I want to get the marginal revenues, it's very easy, because these marginal revenues, I can be able to take the total demand, right, which is my total revenue. I divide it by the quantity, and I will be able to get these marginal revenues, right? In a simpler terms, I'm just taking 20 divided by 1, getting 20, 40 divided by 2, getting 20, and you are going to be getting the similar answers across. Those are how simple that equation is based on the knowledge that you have already gotten on the marginal analysis concepts. Now in that regard, we are saying this normally illustrates that the quantity demand increases, and you can be able to see it when the quantity demanded increasing, right? We are also saying the price remains unchanged. This implies that each additional unit sold increases the total revenue by an amount equal to its price. This relationship is basically illustrated down there, and you can be able to see your revenues. And that is why we are saying that we are saying at equilibrium or at profit maximization, right? The average revenue should be equal to marginal revenues, right? And I can be able to illustrate it up there, because we are saying as the quantity demand increases, the quantity demand increase, you can see it is increasing there. The type of the pricing that we are having remains constant at 20 shillings, but the quantity keeps on increasing. And that is why we are looking at it here, where we are under the x-axis, we are y-axis, we are placing our revenues, And also at our x-axis, we are placing our output. But we are saying the short run recalls that the short run is the context that the theory of a farm is the period in which the quantity of at least one factor of production is fixed. The level of output during this period of time can alter the utilization of the variable factors. But we are saying that in short run, if the perfect competition can make nominal profits, abnormal profits, or losses. Now, that is direct. And we are seeing under the normal profit, they refer to the minimum level of profits which a firm must make in order to induce it to remain in operation. And the level of nominal profit varies from the industry to the other. And this basically is because of the different level of risk and nature of the production process involved in different industries. And we are saying that the nominal profit may be considered be just past a cost of the production line, since the production will not continue unless at least the level of profit is attained. And that is why you can see that at when the price remains constant, where we are discussing about the average revenues equal to the marginal revenues, you can see that the curves, right? You can see the curves for the marginal cost and the average costs are cutting across at the price where the quantity keeps on increasing. And in that case, we are saying the firm is earning normal profit because the price is equal to the average costs. And the profit maximizing level of output is Q1, where the necessary sufficient conditions are satisfied. And we are saying since nominal profits are made, where the price is equal to the average cost, it normally implies that when the price exceeds average cost of the firm, it's said to be earning nominal or supernormal profits. But in that regard, we are saying under the supernormal profits, the categories of all those firms which are earning a return will exceed the minimum necessary to induce them to remain in the industry and they currently occupy. And that is where we are saying the price will be greater than the average costs. Right, the price will be equal or will be greater than the average cost. And when you look at it here, you'll be able to find that where the price is above where the market line, where the marginal cost and the average costs cut across. And you can see under the Q2 now, right, under we are calling under this portion of PCED, you can see in that regard that the organization is going to be keeping afloat so that it can be able to, it is charging more prices so that it can be able to remain afloat in the market. That is why here we are seeing under the explanation, when the level of output is under Q2, the cost for the unit is EQ2, and the price DQ2 supernormal profit is equal to CDPE, which is represented by the schedule above there. And you can see the schedule, which is already illustrated in a good manner there. In that case, it means the organization is just charging more prices so that it can be able to keep afloat in the market, right? So that it means that, and we know very well that, let me just look on the current trends in which are happening currently in our nation regarding to the increase of the fuel, which we have been told that the KK government is trying to reduce the cost of living. I was not be able to understand which concepts of economics is the government using, because there are some of the key determinants of this cost of living we are talking about. And one, it means when you increase the cost of a fuel, when you touch the cost of a fuel upward, for instance, it means the price of the commodities will shift. Right, that is it is automatic increment of the increment of the products in the market. I was able to see someone was asking, that is why I'm a bit checking on which unit are these. The market structures are both under the intermediate economics and the introduction of under macro. So it is just a combined class. For both, the differences I will be able I will be able to note them as we continue, the differences between the two. as we move on, but they don't have much differences. Now, when you look on the monopoly, monopolies are usually associated with economies of scale because of the large size of the market controlled by these firms. And economies of scale imply lower unit costs of production. It is likely that the consumer will benefit from this cost effectiveness through the lower price from the monopoly supplier. A monopolist, like any other firms, finds profit maximizing level of output where the marginal revenues is equal to the marginal cost as shown in the figure, which we'll be able to analyze down there. But the monopoly firm maximizes profit at the level of Q, where the necessary and sufficient conditions of profit maximization are satisfied. The supernormal profits are earned by the monopolists, represented by the shaded area, which we'll be able to check down here. But what I can be able to discuss about this graph is that I'll just be able to give an example of monopolist companies, like we can discuss of let me talk about Del Monte. The Del Monte will be able to determine how much they normally sell their products in the markets. We also discuss about companies like Kenya Power, which is the right now is facing some of the clean energy, geothermals and so on. But there before we know that we have one company which distributes this. Let me discuss about the Kenya Power, which is distributing the powers which we are using right currently. They don't have any other company which can be able to perform those tasks, and they will be able to charge whatever kind of price in which they need on their products. And that is why you could see, if for example you normally buy your tokens today, and you look on some of the bills which are being raised in the parliament of the Senate, you'll be able to realize that someone like Sifuna was able to argue about the Kenyans being given the breakdown of the costs of the power when they are buying their tokens, so that they can be able to know how much is going where. But today, when you are buying your tokens, we'll be able to realize that the messages normally comes with the number of the tokens, and also there is a combined illustration whereby you are being told other charges which are not broken down as earlier on. So those are the things in which the Senate is being discussing today. It is an energy committee, by the way, which is being able to point out about that issue, which already has escalated, so that the Kenyans can be able to know, out of the 1,000 which I'm using to buy the electricity, how much is going to the fuel levy, how much is going to the VAT, how much is going where, and how much. That is the case in which we are looking on here. But other than these monopolies, we are going to be looking on the sources of the monopoly power. And one is the legal barriers. We are saying these take the form of statutory monopolies or patents. And we are saying the monopoly is established by the act of the parliament, and patent means that a firm is protected from the competitions of new firms, right? And let me look on the aspect of the cases of which was raised between the Keroche and the government. I think because of the key players in our political arena, these are the people who already they have big shares in these monopolistic companies. It is very important to understand very well that they will not be able to allow or make policies which will be assisting or bringing any other entrants in the market and come supply similar products. No, it will not. That is why we are discussing about the legal barriers. Now, let us look on the product differentiation barrier, and we are saying this may be in form of product uniqueness, advertisement and branding, where an existing monopolist may exploit his position as a supplier of unestablished products, with the consumer is persuaded to believe that it is the best. And this one has already, when you look on our historical aspect, we'll be able to understand very well that we have some monopolistic companies. It was called what? The company for the gas, Spectre. Yes, it should be the Spectre. The company was able to produce the cooking gas, right? Cylinders for years. Before we are seeing for the last 4 to 5 years having new entrants, and those are the policies which were being those are the policies which were being brought on by members of the parliament there before. Now, let us look on the economies of scale barriers could arise where the existing farm are already operating on a fast-scale production and enjoy technical economies of scale. Let us look on the transport cost and tariff barriers. Some farms may enjoy local monopoly position arising from the ability to sell more cheaply in their own locality than the other farm. Such farms can therefore raise prices in their local markets above the production cost by an amount that not exceed the transport cost. And when you look on it, sometimes you might be able to find that there is areas whereby certain products are being sold that are cheaper. And you will be able to bear me witness with these supermarkets. You will be able to find a supermarket at for instance, Kilimani is charging a higher prices compared to a supermarket which is at for instance at Githurai or at Kayole, because already they are looking on the tariff barriers which are existing and also the transport cost in which they basically using to transport the product. Now, one of the advantages of the monopolies, it is the economies of scale. 2, we are looking on the no wastage of resources. 3, we are looking on the price stability. The other one is the ability to carry out research development to improve on their products. Now, when you look on the economies of scale, right, let me just explain about it, because we shall be able to face it as some on other topics. But economies of scale will be able to refer to the cost of savings and competitive advantages larger businesses have over smaller ones. And that is why we are discussing about the economies of scale, because the big companies will be able to enjoy the economies of scale compared to the small ones because of the transport and the tariff barriers which are existing. That is what we were discussing there before. But some of the disadvantages of these monopolies is that these economies of scale arises in case the farm grows in a very large size, exploit the economies of scale, and fail to achieve the targeted economies of scale. Sometimes you may go to a certain regions and you find that certain companies who have already exploited the aspects of the economies of scale, they don't have the quality of the products. They don't have quantity products. And in that aspect, that is where you look on them. Sometimes you might be asking, why do we have a small number of Kenyans who are using the iPhone, which is an expensive phone, compared to the people who today they are using Techno, right? You can be able to bear me witness that the Techno is able to exploit the economies of scale. When you look at it, majority of the Kenyans, they don't have much to buy the iPhone, right? And that is why you find that the Techno is able to enjoy the economies of scale. So it might be a disadvantage to the other companies who are larger brands, but already they are lacking because of the companies, it is of larger size. It is trying to exploit the economies of scale, but is able to fail to achieve the targeted economies of scale in certain regions. Now, we may be able also to look on the inefficiency since there is no competition, because already when you look on the aspects to why the organization they normally have to look at, let me bring these concepts of inefficiency in an hotel sector. Sometimes you may find that when the people they are visiting a certain region like Mombasa now, the people might be going to the White Sand every time they go. But when we bring in other players in the same industry and trying to offer, right, something that is similar to what the White Sand is offering, then you might be able to see that the White Sand is able to improve based on the service they are offering to the people. But when you find that the White Sand is not able to get any competition, then they might be having inefficiency in the services they are going to be delivering to their clients, right, due to lack of competition in that sector. Now, number 3, we are looking on the lack of motivation through the farm, which we are saying it is in the better financial position to research and development. Their product and the monopoly may fail to do so since there is no competition or challenging. So the aspects of the lack of motivation, I think that is a point which we can be able to understand in a simpler way. Now, number 4, we are discussing about the consumer's exploitation, and we are saying that these are more notorious practices of monopoly, right? Someone is trying to write, please don't do that. Now, we are saying this done through overpricing and price discrimination of their products. And when you look on the consumer's exploitation, this is a thing that has already been applied until there is a government intervention regarding to certain products. But because you can see the government is trying to even to come in, and today I was reading about how do Tanzania was able to come up with a BRT. And you can see the BRT, which is being used within, I think, within Tanzania or in Ethiopia, right? They used around 45 billion Kenya shillings to decongest the city. Because majority of people who normally use their vehicles, they just need to see an efficient system of transport to move around. And that is why you see that when you look at it, because I was just looking on the consumer exploitation, I normally look at it in the matatu industry. Every time the price of the commodity or the price of the fuel increases, majority of the routes within the Nairobi, they can tend to increase the prices, and nobody will be able to question them in regards to that. That is what we are looking on. How do these companies have to, because we normally find that majority of the companies, for instance, I can give one of the famous circles, for example, like Super Metro. You can be able to find they are operating in certain areas. Because of their efficient, they can be able to determine the prices of going to certain regions due to the efficiency. And that is why you see that it might be those kind of things, they might be bringing the issues of the consumer exploitation in regards to the aspects of monopoly. Let us look on the price discrimination. And we are saying that it normally exists where the same product is sold at different prices to different buyers. Price discrimination, I've said, it exists where the same product is sold in different prices to different buyers. And that is why I've said, sometimes when you visit a region like Mombasa, sometimes there was a supermarket like Tuskys. And when you go there, you'll be able to find that the price of the commodity there, they were a bit expensive because they want just to exploit the tourists. When you came to Nairobi, you'll be able to find the price that the price of a product that you are able to buy in Mombasa on the same outlet. When you come to the Nairobi, you'll be able to find it might be of a cheaper price, right? Because it basically being sold to different price to different buyers based on the locality. And this depends on the taste and preferences of the customers, different periods of the farm, consumers' income, etc. And that is why I was able to give an example. So that is why you will be able to find that a shop in Karen being able to sell 1 kg of sukari, for instance, or sugar, it will be different. The same product, the same quality, it will be of different price to other regions. That is why we are looking at it there. This factor will give rise to demand curve with different elasticities in different areas in the markets for the farms. So the price discriminate is easily implementable by a monopoly since it controls the whole supply of a given goods. And these two necessary conditions of price discrimination do normally take place. When you look on the price discrimination, I will be able to look on how we have handled the issues of Maziwa. For example, when we are discussing about Brookside, which has already been controlled by some of the powerful guys here. And sometimes you could be able to see the price of those commodities were keeping rising. And we could not be able to do anything. They are trying to exploit. And that is the point which I was able to explain earlier on. And we are saying the monopolist must effectively separate markets. If he has not separated the market, the consumers in the low price market will buy and sell the commodities, those consumers in the higher price market. And that is one of the key points. The price elasticity of demand for the two markets must be different so that the profitability will be realized. At every price, the demand in any market must be elastic. Than the other where the low priced market have a more elastic demand than the high priced markets.
By selling the quantity defined by the equilibrium, the marginal cost and the marginal revenue at different price, the monopoly realizes a higher total revenue and profits. And we are saying the monopolist realizes a higher total revenue and profits as compound to charging uniform prices. NB here, we are saying, suppose that a monopolist has two markets, 1 and 2, the profit in each market maximized by equaling marginal cost to the corresponding marginal revenues. In the first market, the marginal revenue should be equal to the marginal cost. And in the second one, the marginal revenue 2 should be equal to the marginal cost 2. And that is why we are saying that means the monopolist will maximize the profit by equating the common market cost with the individual market revenues. Now, let us look on the third category. We are looking at the monopolistic competition, and we are saying that this is in a form of imperfect competition, which lies between the extremes of perfect competition and monopoly. And it normally includes elements from both markets. For example, restaurants, hairdressers. And that is where I normally see people going to Umoja markets and leaving all the hairdressers in their regions. Why? Because there are certain characteristics. One, there are many buyers and sellers in the markets, right? Now, number two, the products of the sellers is differential yet very close substitute for each other. Number three, there is freedom of entry and exit of firms. And that is one of the key things, because sometimes when I look on let me use the hairdressers, because you may find that we are operating from the Umoja market, but someone normally says, I normally like to be addressed by so and so. And if that person is not there, I have to be booking the dates, right? I normally do see you doing that. So I have to be booking the dates and go there to be addressed by so and so. If it is not there, I can be able to wait, right? Those are some of the things. And that person might be charging higher prices compared to the neighbors, right? But because of the, I can talk about, there is a point of being satisfaction, which we normally get from those kinds of markets. Number three or number four, we normally discuss about the goal of the firms is profit maximization, both in short run and in the long run. Number five, the prices of factors of production and technology are given. Under this competition, each producer sells a product which is slightly different from that of the competitor and attempts to emphasize on differences like packaging and advertisements. So this process of creating the differences is called product differentiation. You'll be bear me witness about Colgate. What has the Colgate done over the years? From the time you started using it up to date, this company has tried to, sometimes walikuwa na tujaribu, wamechukua to the normal Colgate ile ya white, wanaeka rangi. Then when someone go to the to shop, he sees that product being a unique one compared to the one I've been using. That is one of the key thing in which these organizations normally use to stay afloat. I'm seeing today try to develop the same Colgate, bringing with a charcoal Colgate, right? And the same coming with Geisha, coming with a charcoal soap, right? And so on and so forth. And that is why we are looking on how can these organizations being able to create difference from the same products which are still existing in the market and still sell more, the more of the product in the same market with the competitors. And that is why here we are saying that the farm demand curve will be relatively elastic since the products sold by the competition will be relative close substitutes. Monopolistic farms sell differentiated products, therefore, have limited control over the price. We are saying they are prices. The price makers, they are price makers, right? Since they can raise their price without losing their customers and have to reduce the price in order to sell more. And that is why they normally come up with the same companies. When you go to the supermarkets, they normally have the attendants. You will be able to find their place someone here, someone there who will be able to attend to you. That person will be able, like
is promoting the product to be sold more by coming up with a promotion tactic, which will be assisting the organization to realize more profits. And under the short-term equilibrium in monopolistic competition, we are saying that the firm operating under monopolistic competition makes supernormal profits in the short run, is shown here. You can see the profits of ours, we are making it because we are saying that as we can be able to see under the PSEB. And in that case, we are saying the supernormal profits will attract new firms into the industry, and the surplus profits will be reduced to normal profit in the long run, as shown in the figure here. So you can be able to see what is happening to the marginal revenue, which is tending to cut downwards, right, toward the x-axis, the same as the average revenues. But you can see where the marginal revenues is being cut across by the marginal cost and the average cost. That one is different when we come to the second one, and that is where we are saying here that a firm in monopolistic competition in the long run will make normal profits, since average revenue will be equal to the average costs, right? And that is why we are saying here the marginal cost will be equal to the marginal revenues will be equal to the average cost, and that is what we are able to see here. The marginal revenues are equal to the average cost. And in that case, in that regard, we are saying the existence of many brands enhances the consumer choice and ability. However, it is considered wasteful because of the existence of excess capacity, as we can be able to see under the Q2 to Q1. There is a reduction there. And that is why, which is carried backward by the consumer through the prices. And it is also in wasteful, since the resources that could have been used in expansion and exploitations of economies of scale are used in advertising, right? So it means that if, for example, we are going to be increasing the price of the commodities, it means the consumption of that product will be lower. And that is why we are saying it will be shifting from Q2 to Q1 here. That is why we are saying, however, it is considered wasteful because of the existence of the excess capacity. And because of the existence of much capacity, it means we have overproduced, so that we can be able to match the demand of advertising and so on. So in that case, allow me just look on the last type of the market. Then tomorrow we'll be in a position to do some of the illustration regarding to the topic as we conclude it, right? So we have been told under the oligopoly that they refer to the market structure dominates by large few firms, oligopoly. The number of the sellers is small enough for other sellers to take account of each other. If we are saying if one seller changes his price or uses non-price strategies, his or her rivals would react. This is called oligopolistic dependency, right? For example, I will just be able to give a straight one. If, for example, EABL is trying to change the price of the commodities, right? The price of beer. From now, for example, the one I think it normally reaches the consumers by 90 or 100. If, for example, they are trying to not the consumer but the outlet, if they are able to reach at 90 or 100, then in that position we just need to understand that if they are going to be increasing their prices upwards, then the other companies tend to increase or will be able to react whether to increase their prices or reduce it based on the targets in which they want to exploit. Now, one of the characteristics, those environments normally contains few firms who produce goods that are substitutes, but need to be perfect substitutes. And that is where you normally find when I'm using beer is because it normally have perfect substitutes. And someone might be saying, today I just want to take Guinness. Tomorrow I just want to take another type of beer because there is a perfect. But I'm not giving you a good examples of the perfect markets or the perfect substitutes.
and I would like to give you some of the perfect substitutes examples. And when you look on the perfect substitute, we are saying that a perfect substitute is just a situation where two goods are viewed as identical. That is what I'm just looking on the, what are some of the examples do we have? What can we be able to say is a perfect substitute? Someone can give illustration of a perfect substitute. Let me see who is here. We have Rosbella. You can be able to give me what is the one of the example do you realize in the market? It is the perfect substitute to our products. Someone is not able to give me, but I can be able to relate one. We can discuss about the painkiller. Someone may be saying, when I'm taking, for example, when I'm taking something like Maramoja, I will be good. Another one will say, no, I don't take Maramoja. I'll be able to take Panadol. They are direct and the perfect substitutes. I will just be able to give you that one and realize what is a perfect substitute. Now, number two, it lies somewhere between extreme of perfect competitions and monopoly. And number three, we are saying there are barriers to the entry. Number four, decision of the firms are strictly interdependent. Number five, sellers agree on the price or the market share. That is where you find when you need a Panadol, you'll be finding it as 20 shillings or 15 shillings, the same way as you can be able to find with the Maramoja, for instance, for that form. Now, the forms of the oligopoly, we are saying duopoly, where the market is dominated by two firms, pure oligopoly, where the products of the few sellers are identical, differentiated oligopoly, where products are differentiated in terms of the quality, packaging. If, for example, you are able to go to the foreign countries, you'll be able to find that the products, for example, in Tanzania, if they are able to produce for example, let me give an example of Serengeti, which is a form of beer there, and also they have Kilimanjaro, for instance. You'll be finding those products are looking like they don't have much, they're identical, they don't have much difference between the two, but they have two different brands. So in that case, we are discussing about there is the few sellers who are having products which are identical. Number three, we are saying differentiated oligopoly, where the products are differentiated in terms of the quality and also how they are being packaged. And when you look on the aspect of packaging, I'll be able to give on how we normally package our water. Someone may be saying, can I take Quencha? Another one will be able to say, no, I don't, I need Mount Kenya, right? I don't need Mount, based on how the water is being, but at the end, it will be able to give the same satisfaction. Number four, collusive oligopoly, where the few sellers in the market come together and make decisions to control the prices, quality and quantity to be produced. That is where you are finding, and that is where I'm giving much on the things which the government likes to exploit regarding to for example, cigarettes and so on. You'll be able to find that these companies, they normally, which produces, they normally determine their prices, and then they will be able to say the similar the price in the market. The same as the fuel products. We'll be able to find the petrol stations in the same region, they are selling the same prices of that product. That is an agreeable based on the margins, which is being discussed between the stakeholders and the government. Now, the last one is the non-collusive oligopoly, where the few sellers determine the prices, quality, and the quantity without colluding. And you can see those are the key things that we need to determine. Now, there is a term which is normally called the kink demand curve. So sometimes the kink, we are saying that when we discuss about the kink demand curve, yes, it is not just in the oligopoly, where there is a potential king demand curve, but we are saying in the market for an addictive drug like cocaine, that is where you find the king demand curves. That is where we are saying if the price is cut, it may encourage first-time users to try, right? However, once addicted, if the price rises, then the demand will be price inelastic, because they will be willing to pay as higher as they can because they are addictive. So that is why we are saying the king demand curve, it is interdependence in oligopolistic firms, where they normally explain that the price rigidity among the firms. So the theory of king demand curve suggests that the firms in oligopoly face two sets of demand curve. One, the price increase. That is what I was trying to give you, the issues of drugs about the cocaine. If the price is being reduced, right, the new people may decide to try, but once addicted, you might, regardless of how much is going to be sold, I will be able to purchase. That is the king demand curves. That is why here I'm saying, when you look at it, the aspect of the king, because when you look on the demands, when the demand we are looking on the demand and the price and the quantities of the products, and in this case we are saying for price increase, the firm is an elastic demand curve, DD, right? So that is the small DD. You can see this one. This one is the small DD, right? Which tend to move downwards. For price decrease, it is the inelastic demand curve, which is the big DDs. This means that the actual demand curve for the firm is represented by D, which is small, E, which is the capital E, and D, right? So it tends to be moving downwards. When we look on the kink here, the DED. So in this case, it is tending to move from here up to this point. And we are saying the demand is said to have a king at point E associated with the price P1 and quantity Q1, right? And we are saying all firms in the industry are assumed to be in a similar position, which implies that if a firm raises its prices and its competitor fails to follow the suit, then it will lose large sales of revenue. And that is the case. This firm is on the elastic position of the demand curve. Now, let me just continue so that you can be able to understand much. All the firms in the industry are assumed to be in a similar position, which implies that if a firm raises its prices and this competitor will be able to fail to do so, it will lose a lot of sales revenue. That is a normal thing. These firms are elastic position of a demand curve. If one firm reduces the price, then its competitors will have to reduce their price by at least as much or even more to retain the market share. And that is what normally happens. If, for example, I determine I want to raise the price of the commodity, right? That is why we talk about shifting it or increasing the price. Then it means if my competitors will not be able to increase the price of the commodities, I might be losing the market share. But if, for example, I'm a player under the same market, whereby we are competing with similar players, then I reduce the price of that commodity, then it means my competitors will have, without contemplating with the quality of the product, right? Without contemplating with the quality of the product, but you tend to reduce the price of that product, then it means you're going to be dominating the market and your competitors will be in a position to lose. And that is why here we are saying the marginal revenue is discontinuous at the output level where there is a kink in the demand curve. The kink in the demand curve explains the nature of the marginal revenue curve, where at point E and output Q, the marginal revenue curve falls vertically, since at a higher price, the marginal revenue curve will correspond to less elastic demand curves. So as much as I want to attain more profits, it means I have to be reducing my profit. I have to be reducing my price, and that is why you find, regardless of the cost of production in major outlets, for example, in an hotel sector, there is an increment in the price of the commodities. Most of them might not tend to increase the price of the commodities because they don't want to do, they have a fear of losing the market share. So the firm maximizes profit where the marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue. It is very likely that the marginal cost curve will cut the marginal revenue curve at point X, and you can be able to see it here at the kink, and at that point is where at equilibrium with kinked curve, you can see where it comes to tend to shift downwards, then that is at our equilibrium point. Any question to this point, please? Any questions so far?